Let's go to South Bend, Indiana. As now, Marcus Freeman, Joe, how about this? Going into a season without a transfer quarterback, now that they've been able to solidify that position through high school recruiting, Scott Angeli, CJ Carr, some of the names for Notre Dame.
Steve Angeli, by the way.
What did I say, Scott?
Yeah.
I know it's Scott Angeli. Okay, Steve Angeli, sorry. But Angeli, Carr, both of those names that we need to talk about. I graduated with a Scott Angeli. Anyway, I'm going to divert to you on this. What's going on at Notre Dame when it comes to the quarterback position?
Admittedly, I wish I had more of a pulse on what was happening with this, but I don't. I find it's not concerning, but I find it interesting that there's no separation. And I brought this up as soon as the season ended and we talked about turning the page for Notre Dame in 2025 going into next year, that there were three names that were in the competition. It wasn't just CJ Carr and Steve Angeli. Kenny Minchey is also in the picture. And the annoying non-answer that Marcus Freeman gave, I'm not saying he's annoying, but like I always hate when there's a quarterback back. Right, the coach speak where he just very clearly said that there's no separation. I hate that because I'm hoping that at the very least we would know who's 1 and 2. I would like by the end of the spring, Blake, if there's 3 guys competing along the same line of what you brought up earlier, that needs to be dwindled down to 2. We need to move down to 2. There are too many reps that are going and being split among 3 guys. That is too confusing. There needs to be some sort of separation. Now, the one thing that seems to be partially the case, which I don't totally love, is I think Steve Angeli does end up being the likely starter because he has been there for longer. He's more experienced. Some people think that he could do some great things based on that little drive that he put together against Penn State. I think that he is.
It wasn't a little drive. Hold on now. It wasn't
it was a big drive, but it was a few plays. It's not like we've got like a big sample size. His ceiling is the lowest out of all of the quarterbacks, but his floor is the highest. And it all comes down to if Denbrock and Marcus Freeman value steadiness over a higher outcome in this circumstance.
Let me ask you a question. Who do you think has – I mean, I know that Marcus Freeman has the final say. Don't get what I'm saying twisted. Do you think – that if Mike Denbrock says whatever quarterback that he wants to roll with, Marcus Freeman says okay?
I would hope so. I've found kind of odd a lot of times Marcus Freeman, when he comments on the offense, it sounds like he does have some sort of direction and then just the overall mentality. I would hope that now that Denbrock has been there for a year, I kind of respect Freeman for Denbrock's first year, maybe having a little bit more involvement in say, but now that Denbrock's been there for a year and he's worked with all 3 guys, I would hope that he allows Denbrock to make this decision. Like, what was it like for Denbrock when he was under Kelly? Was it his decision to go with Jane Daniels and all
different.
that?
It's different. Okay, let's go there. Mike Denbrock did not give 2 Rudy Poos what any other quarterback did besides Jaden Daniels. I will confirm that. I know that for a fact.
All right.
But Kelly made Denbrock roll with everybody in that first year to make sure that that he was for sure. Right? Jaden Daniels is a different beast, right? Like I think it's a different, like, especially from what Mike Denbrock, like, look at Riley Leonard. I mean, Jaden literally from a running standpoint was on steroids of what they did in 22. What I would tell you is from my personal connection with the Denbrock Association, I do think that Mike wants somebody that can be a little bit more mobile, but if you give him a guy that can throw the football, he will lean there. He will lean there. What they did in the offseason with Jaden before he won the Heisman, Joe, I'm just going to be honest. They watched more film together than I've heard of any real coordinator and player doing it. They talked about it. So we'll see. I don't know what Mike's ultimate decision would be, but I do think for what it's worth, I've never seen CJ Carr ever So I don't know what the kid.
I have no idea what to expect from him because he's coming off of an elbow injury, and I think that is the clearest indication that he's not in the mix as much as I think people.
Well, that's what I was about to bring up. I don't think that. Here's what I ultimately believe. I ultimately believe if it's close, just from the outside looking in, why wouldn't you give Scott Angeli? I graduated with Steve Angeli. Sorry. Steve Angeli, why would you not get him the first crack? Because, Joe, quite honestly, he's got 80 passing attempts and he's over 72%. Now, I know that's not a massive sample size, but by the small stats that we have, it looks as if that he's a pretty damn good decision maker.
That's why I kind of think that he ends up starting is that when you have a battle like this with three guys, with one of the highest recruited quarterbacks that you've had in the last 5 to 10 years, you have an underrated high upside guy in Kenny Minchey, and you have a player who's been a backup for a long period of time and who has stepped in before. With all of those variables, you're going to go with the guy who's the better decision maker in practice. You're going to go with the guy. And a lot of times, here's like an even early. Right. And here's a layer about this that you don't even think about with these quarterback battles. Said player, and Angeli is the one in this circumstance, is around all of the defensive players and has gone up against all of the defensive players for multiple years now, knows all their tendencies, knows subconsciously how to handle certain situations in practice going up against this defense that he's been facing for multiple years now. So he has this advantage of being surrounded by and competing with the Notre Dame defense as the backup and all of that stuff. That is going to make him look better in practice. That does not mean that he is the better quarterback, but when the battle is being had out, and this is why we were talking about the importance of the Fran Brown, Colorado, Deion Sanders spring game happening, is that would actually create an opportunity to prove who the better players are at certain positions instead of just only seeing the guys that you're used to being around. So with all that in mind, if it's close, it goes to Angeli.
Steve, I love you. Can I throw this out there to you? Steve, there was a comment last week about Steve Angeli from somebody that we respect.
Greg McElroy.
Okay. Well, Greg didn't say anything that was crazy. He has said, what if he takes a massive leap? It was the way that it was reported by some at Notre Dame that I'm not throwing shade. That was like, come on, bro. That's not what he said. But
well, the problem was, and I texted this to you, the dumbass producer who is in charge of cutting clips for that show didn't listen to the clip, and the way that he cut it made it incredibly clickbaity. He didn't listen to anything that he said, and is exactly what you just pointed out. His statement about saying that Steve Angeli could take a massive leap like Joe Burrow did when nobody knew what he was going to be going into that following season. That wasn't what he was not saying this is the next Joe Burrow. And that dipshit at ESPN who cut that clip is a moron for doing that to Greg. I'd be pissed if I was a host and somebody did that to me.
All I'm going to say, people say that Joe Burrow came out of nowhere. In the last 3 games, he had 15 total touchdowns of the first season that he started. Mm-hmm. That just confirms to me that you didn't watch a single thing that happened at LSU those last 3 games. Joe, he averaged 5 touchdowns and 350 yards. The truth of it is that the Burrow leap came post-Bama. So after they got beat by Bama, Joe Burrow went on an absolute tear. He didn't lose another game. Well, he lost to A&M, but they damn near didn't in 7 overtimes. So he went 18-1 in the last 19 games of his career. It's not like he came out of nowhere. What was it, UCF, when he got hit, he got blasted? He's 350, 3 touchdowns, whatever, or 4 touchdowns with the rushing. Again, dude, what are we talking about? That's the part for me that I'm like, maybe it was 12. Regardless of the amount, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say maybe this now makes the comparison work more. Not saying that he's comparing him to Burrow, but we had exposure to Joe Burrow finishing that season really well, and he had a really strong finish. Angeli doesn't have full starts, but he had a couple little instances where he got to play, and he looked really good in those situations.
Well, that's where I wanted to go. So hold on. Those are games. This is a drive. So, for example,
Yes.
If we're going based off of guys that came in and premiered during drives, then Austin Simmons is one of the top quarterbacks in the country.
That's a good point.
Right?
Good point.
I mean, like,
good point. Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're going to go there, and if that's the way that we judge based off of things, then Austin Simmons should be a top 5 quarterback in the country based off of the offense that he's at and where he's at. So spare me on the drive thing. The kid showed that he can throw the ball. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be a starter, can't be a starter, and doesn't have talent. We talked about that during the Penn State thing. Like, hey, he sparked you, if we're just being honest. But good googly moogly, man. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah, we know it's April when we've got clips like that going viral. We gotta settle down.
Well, can I tell you this? Don't be mad at me. I am tired of everything getting compared to that 2019 team. Because I get tagged.
Hold on. Don't get tired. It's one of the greatest teams of all time until somebody surpasses it. We brought up works.
Hold on now. We brought up 2023 Colorado, and they said what team would win. You remember the post by ESPN.
Okay, well, that was stupid shit. Okay. That was dumb. That was really, really dumb. And that I agree with.
Then they did it for Miami this past year. And I'm like, bro, what?
Wait, did they?
Yes. Oh, God.
Oh, man, yes. I don't remember that.
They did it for Miami. Oh, who would win? And I'm like, dog. One team's almost getting upset by Virginia Tech. Like, come on, dude.
Hey, man, they were close. They were only three losses away from being close.
Jesus Christ.